Hey, I'm Mike, and in this video, I want to talk about the best mounts in every expansion. In this video, I'll be talking about 2 ground mounts and 2 flying mounts that were the best from every expansion. This is going to exclude any store mounts, so it's only mounts in the game that you could get or can still get. And just a criteria for this is that the mount had to have been released during that expansion. So for example, in Dragonflight, there was the MOP Remix event, and that was, even though they're technically Mr. Pandaria mounts, they were released during Dragonflight, so if any of those made the list, they would be Dragonflight mounts that were the best. Before we get started, I know that stuff like this can get pretty heated, so I just want to let you know that this is an objective list, and if you disagree, then you're just wrong. But anyway, let's get started. Starting with Classic. This one's pretty easy. I don't think there's a lot of great mounts in Vanilla, but the second best of all of them is the Black Karaji Resonating Crystal, which you would get from the Encourage Gate Opening event. This is still probably one of the most rare mounts in the entire game. I've only ever seen one, and it was back in Wrath of the Lich King. I was just in Ironforge, and some dude was just sitting on this in front of the bank, and I just thought, wow, I was like I was seeing a celebrity. It was so cool, so amazing, and I've never seen one since. And the fact that it's so rare and prestigious is what makes it such an incredible mount. It's got a very unique color compared to all the other mounts in the game. And outside of the ones you can get for the raid specifically, this was the only mount of its kind that you could ride outside in the world. Absolutely legendary mount. I'd love to see anyone else in retail with this mount ever. But yeah, this mount is so cool, and that's why it's number 2. But the best mount in all of Classic was, of course, the Swift Zulian Tiger, which you got from Zul'Gurub. Tiger models still to this day are some of the best in the game, and I just think they might need an HD update, but otherwise they are still fantastic. But this one specifically is unlike any other mount of its kind in color. And even just in general, I don't think there's any other orange mounts in Classic other than I think there might be an orange Mechanostrider, but even then it's not super orange like this one. The reason this one is the best is because of how eye-catchingly unique it is and how cool it looks. There was absolutely no mistaking this for any other mount back in the day or even today, and it just looks great. It's like an actual tiger that you're getting to ride. Such a cool mount and still one of the best in the game to this day. Moving into BC, I think that a lot of people are going to probably agree with most of the stuff here. This is going to be where we start getting to 4 mounts total, so 2 ground mounts and 2 flying mounts. Starting with last place, I think the 4th best mount is the Fiery Warhorse from Original Kara. I think it's a great combination of the undead and human race mounts. I love the green fire hooves, which I think you're going to see is a recurring theme when it comes to Felfire. And this mount just gives a 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse vibe, which is just, I love that aesthetic. Similar to the classic mounts, it has a very eye-catchingly unique look to it, and I feel like there's no mistaking it when you see it still. The 3rd best mount from Burning Crusade was the Amani Warbear, which you got from the original Zul'Aman doing a timed run. I used to think this mount was very, very ugly and thought anyone who wanted it or had it was just making a mistake. It was so bad, but the older I get, the more this mount just grows. I mean, it's just such a terrific mount. The Cataclysm remake doesn't even do close to justice on this beauty that we have here. Again, it's very distinct compared to all the other mounts from this time. There were no other bear mounts like this, so when you saw it, it was unmistakable what it was. I love the way the armor looks and how the red pops out, but overall, this just looks so cool. I love this mount. Coming in at number 2 is the Swift Nether Drake, which is the Season 1 Gladiator mount, the first ever. Nether Drakes are such an incredible, beloved model still to this day, and basically what this mount does is take some of the best flying mounts from Burning Crusade and adds excellent looking armor on top of it. I love the purple, it's one of my favorite of the Drakes, and I just love the dark purple armor with the silver trim. It's just perfect. I've only ever seen a couple of these out in the wild, and it's always just, it's like seeing a unicorn. It's like, wow, you're an initial gladiator. Oh my god, that's crazy. So it being another Drake is 1 point, the uniqueness of it is another, and the rarity of it now, even back then actually, is another point as well. This mount is fantastic. And the best mount in all of Burning Crusade, I know it, you know it, we all know it, on 3, 1, 2, Ashes of Alar. Of course, you get it from Tempest Keep. It's not just one of the best Burning Crusade mounts, it's one of the best mounts ever. It's still one of the most sought after mounts, and to my knowledge, just the one purple mount shares its model, which is I think that level 25 guild achievement. No matter how easy this mount is to get nowadays, there is still this aura around it. Like when you see it, you think, wow, that's Ashes of Alar. I'd be willing to bet that many people who aren't mount collectors farm this mount, and many people got into mount farming because of this mount. I love the colors, which I think could have just been a basic orange-red phoenix, but instead we get this pink and purple highlight stuff on top of it, which just looks fantastic. And I think the cherry on top is just the trails that fly out with you as you're moving. They almost look like tassels, and it's just such a unique, great addition to this already fantastic mount. So Ashes of Alar, number 1, Burning Crusade, and could be number 1 of all time. Moving into 2008, when we get to Wrath of the Lich King, this is probably where I'm going to start losing some of you. The 4th best mount is a Darnassian Nightsaber. Like I said earlier, tiger mounts are one of my favorite in the game, and I am a little bit biased. I always loved the Black War Tiger back in Burning Crusade, and this one reminds me of it. It's just, I love the darker color and the pink eyes that it has. It just looks perfect. Simple yet effective. Number 3 from Wrath is the white polar bear. It's similar to the Zulian Panther or the ZA mount or Ashes, where it's so eye-catchingly unique. There's not many plain white mounts out there, and it just stands out based on the color alone. And I think it's a shame that they haven't used more mounts with this model, because I absolutely love them. It's just literally a polar bear. It's cute and it's awesome and it's fierce. The second best mount in all of Wrath is the Wrathful Gladiator's Frostworm, which is the Season 8 Gladiator mount. These skeleton dragons were just amazing when they came out in ICC, and this of all of them is the best model. I love how decrepit and sickly it looks. I think the purple-green combo goes so well with the undead model of the worm. And yeah, I just love how plagued and dying it looks. And then number 1, the best mount in all of Wrath, is a mount that I used to think was one of the ugliest in the game. It came from Glory of the Raider 10-man, the Plagued Proto-Drake. Proto-Drakes are for sure in the Mount Model Hall of Fame. There's a lot of great colors, but this is by far the most unique of all of them and the absolute coolest. I love the discoloration on the body and the purple wings that make it almost look like giant bruises. Like many other mounts here, it's eye-catchingly unique. You're not going to mistake this mount for any other when you see it. Similar to the Wrathful Gladiator mount before this, it's got like this sickly and decrepit look, and I just love the way that looks. It's like you're flying a disease. It's like a zombie. From there, we move into Cataclysm, and this is where ground mounts really did not do well. But the 4th best mount in all of Cataclysm was the Armored Rizashi Raptor from the new Zul'Gurub. It's a nice recolor of the Troll Raptors. I don't think it holds up to the original, but I do love the blood red color of the body. I think the dark green armor goes well with it, same with the green markings along the tail, and I just love the way that this color looks on the face armor specifically as well. Number 3 in Cata is the Vitreous Stone Drake from Slabhide in Stonecore. It's another really great Drake model that didn't really have too many recolors, which I think is surprising because these look fantastic. I love the fluorescent blue throughout the entire body, like on the arms, and I love how these wings are a different shade and color altogether. It really makes the mount pop. The second best, the runner-up for best mount in all of Cataclysm, is the Flame Talon of Elisrazor. It's one of the few mounts just completely engulfed in flames, and I love that fire is like contained within the model and it's always flowing, and this isn't just a static orange mount. It feels like you're riding this bird-like fireball. There's minimal armor, so the focus is on how epic the mount looks, and where there is no fire, it's just this black, charred looking color in the armor, like on the beak or on the talons. Fantastic looking mount. But it's not as good as number 1, which of course is the Pureblood Firehawk from Ragnaros in Firelands. It does what the Flame Talon does, but on a bigger stage and so much better, I think. It has a lighter flame to it compared to Flame Talon, but it still has some of the darker orange to accent the visual. The no armor on Flame Talon was a plus, but having armor here is the plus. It just fits so well, this spiky, heated up, molten, charred armor that feels like it fills out the model. And I love when it's flying and it just gets a full wingspan. It just looks so beautiful. After that, we head into Mists of Pandaria, which I'm pretty sure is where, if I haven't lost you already, I'm gonna lose most of you. Because my 4th best mount here is Reigns of Gallicras from Glory of the Orgrimmar Raider. It's such a great Proto-Drake rendition. I love the red body with the yellow highlights that almost look like battle markings. The armor makes it look more fierce. I love the armor on the tail. It just feels like perfect for a war. I'm kind of surprised this specific mount wasn't a gladiator mount, because it feels just so perfect for that. Coming in at number 3 is the Ashen Pandaren Phoenix, which you would get from completing all the challenge modes on at least Silver. I've always been a big fan of the Hippogriff models in the game, and this feels like a cooler, updated version of them. I love the colors, the different greens and some blue. I think the peacock is superb and adds so much character to this mount, and it's unfortunate that I never unlocked this, because had I done that, I would definitely have been using this as a regular flying mount to this day. Number 2, the runner-up for best mount in all of Mists of Pandaria, is the blue Shadowpan Riding Tiger, which you simply just get for 500 gold for getting Shadowpan Exalted. I think this is an absolutely gorgeous model, and this is the best one of all of them. It's one step below the Night Elf Tiger mounts, but it's so good. I love the white Bengal body and the incredible looking armor, and I think the red wraps make this just an elite mount. The gold faceplate into the silver and blue neck protection looks fantastic. I love the shoulder pads and the golden alliance looking emblem, and it just looks so fierce and intimidating, like royalty would ride it. But again, it's not as good as number 1. which number 1 is the Vicious Skeletal Warhorse, which comes from a vicious saddle in PvP. Undead are one of the coolest races in the game, and their mounts are always so good, and this is the best looking warhorse in the game. I love purple, so of course I'm going to be biased because of that. I think the purple horde banner makes the faction symbol not look stupid for once, and I think the green hooves and the bottom of its cloak looks so good as well. It looks like neon lights underneath a car, but also like this poisonous step. The armor is fantastic. The shoulders could pass for a shield that players could equip themselves. The accessory on the tail makes it look like a flail. I love the chainmail around the neck that leads into this fantastic looking armor that surrounds it, like a rusted out metal with the horse's spikes sticking out of it. The horns and the fell flames are just icing on the cake. This mount is one of the coolest in the entire game, and it's just so sick. Speaking of sick, we head into Warlords of Draenor, where the 4th best mount here is going to be the Felsteel Annihilator, which you got from Mythic Archimonde. This mount just looks badass. I love the spinning cannon for an arm and the general dark color with fell flames. I love the back part and how it just looks like an exhaust pipe. It kind of reminds me of Turbo Man from Jingle All the Way when it flies. That's a great looking mount. Number 3 from Warlords is the Fellfire Hawk, which you got for getting 250 mounts. Everything I said for the Pureblood Firehawk and Kata applies here, but the green is just so good here. Like I said before, I love Fell Flame anything, and this just looks like a Fell Flame ball that you can ride. It's so cool. Number 2, the runner-up in Warlords, is going to be the Ironhoof Destroyer, which you get from Mythic Blackhand in Blackrock Foundry. I typically don't like larger mounts, but this one is just too good not to. I love the base model, but then you add the massive horns and the inflamed armor, it's just excellent. I love the spiked spine armor. My favorite part is the nose horn that just looks like a goblet of fire. And that leads us to number 1, the best mount in all of Warlords is the Void Talon of the Dark Star, which is just a rare mount that you can get out in the world. Everything I said about Flame Talon from Kata obviously applies here. As I mentioned earlier, I love purple, so what is there to hate about this? It's a perfect mount. I love the golden armor, it just fits so perfectly with that purple. And I also love that there's like these dark blue highlights in places like the feet and the nose. It just adds a little bit of flavor to this mount. Over in Legion, the 4th best mount is the Smoldering Emberworm from the timed event in the new Karazhan. It's a charred dragon, what's not to love? It looks fantastic. It's kind of basic in that it doesn't really have that much armor, and that just kind of speaks to how great the base model of this is. I love the face on this, it really reminds me of Balrog from Lord of the Rings. I love the orange that's on the chest as just this slight highlight, and I love the wings because they look like kind of like these murky acid clouds, like something you'd see on a gaseous planet. From there, the next mount, number 3 in all the Legion, is going to be what you get for getting honor level 250, the prestigious Midnight Courser. It just looks so good. It also is very basic, but it does basic perfectly. It looks like a mount that Death himself would use. It's a great horse model, and I just love the use of black and silver throughout all of it. I think the cloak fits so well, and the red accents are minimal, but in all of the right places. The second best mount in Legion is Midnight from the new Kara. I talked about a mount fit for the 4 horsemen earlier, and this is just top of that list. The devil himself could ride out of hell on this, and it would make complete sense. I said earlier how much I love the armor on the Vicious Skeletal Warhorse, and all that applies here, but the red is what puts this one above that one. There's a few different shades of it, and it just is absolutely perfect. I also love the shoulder pads here, that it's just this dark skull but lighter shield plating that feels like a buffed version of the Warforged Nightmare from the store. And number 1, the best mount in all of Legion, which apparently is a mount that not a lot of people like, is the Shackled Orzul from Argus Mythic. This is my favorite mount in the game, and once I get it, it will be my primary flying mount. This is far and away the coolest mount Blizzard has ever made. The flesh color with the faces stretched across it, as well as the mouth in the center, it's just so macabre and creepy and gross and amazing. Like some of the other mounts earlier on in this video, it's unlike any other mount ever and so distinctly unique, and I think it's perfect. I wouldn't change a single thing about it. I also love the way that the mouth is just dripping with poison, just adding to how gnarly this mount is, and it just makes it feel like this is death in mount form, and it's just incredible. From there we go into Battle for Azeroth, where the 4th best mount for me was the mount you get for collecting 400 mounts, which is the Frenzied Fell Talon. I've talked about this with the Flame Talon and the Void Talon. I've also talked about how much I love Fell Flames, and the Fellfire Hawk was like the grown-up version of this. I don't have anything new to add that I haven't already said, but it's just an excellent mount, and it's hard to go wrong with anything Ravenlord related. So from there we go to number 3 in BFA, which is the Glacial Tidestorm from Mythic Jaina in the Battle of Dazara lore. I always love the mage water elementals, and now I get to ride one. I love the icy look underneath this skin with what looks like flowing water all around it. I think the shadows of fish swimming underneath the ice is a very nice touch. I love the way that the frost spikes on the top look. I love the whirling winds on the shoulders and the forearms, which kind of give it this frost hurricane type of look. And I think the mount special looks great too. It's more animated than we usually get. Number 2 in all of BFA came from Mythic King Dazar in King's Rest, the Tombstalker. I love raptor models, but this one has a mummified undead model that is just so good. It looks like a zombie raptor. I love the face with the dead eyes and like the blackness around them. I love the early stage decay on the face that also extends down the neck and the arms. I think the base model alone would have been really cool, but when you have the armor and the wrappings, that just sends it to a next level. I'm also not usually a fan of troll stuff, but the red and gold Zandalari armor here fits just so well. I also love that you get a throne to sit on with, of course, this spear behind it with the hanging skulls to add to the intimidation / cool factor. With the armor too, I love the way that it looks just all along the spine with the red cloth underneath it. I love the feathers on the head and the tail, and I think the extra touch is just the wrappings along the arms and the legs. I think that really sells the mummified look as well. But number 1 from all of BFA is the Obsidian Worldbreaker, which you got from completing some events during the 15th anniversary event. I resubbed to the game just for this mount. This is by far the best looking dragon mount in the entire game, and you're just riding pretty much a smaller Deathwing, and it's just incredible. I love how the wings are flesh and react to light appropriately, getting brighter or darker depending on the light, and I think the entire upper body is just phenomenal. The simple body armor surrounding this unique charred body that has these orange markings that look lava-like, and the face is fierce and intimidating, and the horns look like they're armor, but also like it's this hard exterior bone-like casing that leads into this more fleshy horn itself. Terrific mount, and no other in the game has ever made me resub just for it, and this did it, so congrats. As we head into Shadowlands, we find out that quantity does not equal quality, because a lot of these mounts sucked. But there were 4 good ones, starting with the Vicious War Spider, the Alliance version, which is the Season 1 Vicious Saddle Mount. This kind of reminds me of Shelob from Lord of the Rings. The color is what sets it apart from all the other spiders and its horde counterpart. I love the dark orange on top with the lighter orange underneath. It feels like it's just this kind of like lava spider. The armor on the abdomen that extends up the legs a bit looks great too, and I just love the colors there as well. It almost looks like cracked molten, and it's just a little bit intimidating. I can kind of see a face in it too, which is a little bit creepy if you just see that running at you in battle. I think the face of the spider is also great with the eye placement. I think the armor at the base of the legs is a great addition as well. It really makes it feel like this mount is a porcupine that where anywhere you touch, it's gonna hurt. I think the idle animation is really good with the legs constantly moving around. And I think the mount special is just absolutely terrifying. Like, just imagine that happening in real life. Gross. From there, we get a little bit nicer with the 3rd best mount, which is Jigglesworth Senior. This mount you got from completing all the Fated raids on normal, and it's just this tiger mount at base level, but it's a literal skeleton encased in goo. It's not necessarily eye-catchingly unique like some of the others, but once you see it, you definitely do a double take and just go, whoa, what is that? I love the basicness of it. It's not overdone with the armor. It's just a little dabble-do-ya. And just overall, it looks like this corrosive tiger, and I absolutely love it. Number 2 on the list is the mount you got from being a Keystone Master in Season 3, the Waste Warped Deathwalker. Similar things to what I said about the Glacial Tidestorm from BFA would also apply here because they're similar looking mounts. But for this mount specifically, the red color really pops, and I love the black body underneath it that really makes the red pop some more. It kind of looks like a fiery tornado of blood, and it's just so cool. The throne on top as well for your character also makes it look pretty evil, which is kind of awesome. But speaking of being evil, the number 1 best mount in all of Shadowlands, easily, was the Season 1 Gladiator mount, the Sinful Gladiator's Soul Eater. I talked back in Legion about the Smoldering Emberworm, how it reminded me of Balrog from Lord of the Rings, and this mount is like the darker, eviler version of that. This mount I would fully expect Death himself to be riding on top of. It just looks like an eater of souls. I love the shadowy wings. I love the old, frail-looking body with the dark armor on top. I love that its helmet covers its decrepit face. And I think the red eyes really just complete that evil look that it has. And that brings us to Dragonflight, the last expansion in this list, where number 4 is the Season 4 Keystone Master Mount, the Infinite Armorodon. The base model is pretty cool, but I just love the colors of this mount. The whitish blue around the grayish black all over just give just such a great look. I think this mount, just because of the colors, will stand out in any crowd. I'm a big fan of the porcupine-like spikes and the completely spiked tail. I love how the tail and the feet all have this glowing effect that gives it this kind of frostfire look. And I love that the inside of the mouth is blue as well. It kind of just looks like an evolved Komodo dragon. Number 3 in Dragonflight comes from the Glory of the Dragonflight Hero achievement, Shellac. It's a lava battle snail. That's amazing. It's a darker shade than Magma Shell, which I prefer, and it's a very basic mount, but it's just very good. The shell looks like it's holding a bunch of magma within it, and I think the chains and the spikes just give it that war look, which is just kind of really funny for a snail. Number 2 on this list is not a mount per se, it's actually a customization, which I'm counting. And this is the Embodiment of the Blazing, the renewed Proto-Drake customization that drops off Farak. This makes this Proto-Drake look very much more unique. I love the light that's coursing through the wings, which is the one thing I wish that the older Proto-Drakes like from Ulduar had. I love the fleshy tone of the skin and just how it seems to get hotter and brighter the closer to the head that you get. It looks really good alongside the darker skin. I also love the fiery horns on top and the charred mouth. Those look great. And finally, number 1, the best mount in all of Dragonflight. To conclude this list is once again a customization for the Highland Drake, the Embodiment of the Hellforged, which drops off Scale Commander Sarkareth. It's just so cool. It looks like a Robo Dragon or just a very badass armored up dragon. I love how it's almost fully decked out in that armor and there's just these glimpses of the flame underneath the spine or the neck. I love the way that the armor looks going down the spine, and like I said, that little bit of light poking out through it is such a great touch. It almost looks like it shares the orange and purple colors of Alar, but just in a different model, and it kind of pokes out and teases you rather than being the fully exposed color. I love that. The face looks cool too, it's just this very intimidating look, and I love that the top of the Drake is this ashy color, then underneath looks either like flesh or the beginning of some superheated flame. It kind of looks like an updated cyborgy Deathwing. And that's it. Those are all the best mounts from every expansion in WoW. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your favorites? Give me your list down below in the comments. If you like this video or any of my others, and you haven't yet, I'd love if you considered subscribing. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day. Go get some mounts. I'll see you later. Bye.